So first question, aside from gastrulation, where do we see EMT in embryos?
So in embryos, obviously, just after gastrulation, you have to engage the differentiation program into the newly formed mesenchymal cells. And you are going to form, in particular, the heart and Lager is a process by which you will at least 4 cycles of epithelial-mesenchymal conditions and the reverse EMTs. We have discussed that in a number of reviews as well as other colleagues. So without EMT and MET, heart cannot form. In particular, the valves are absolutely requiring the formation of, in fact, an endothelial lining of mesenchymal cells, and it's called endo-EMT in some ways. But this is absolutely essential. Without that, obviously, you are going to fail constructing a heart. EMT occurs obviously in a very important population of cells I studied myself a long time in the neural crest, forming a lot of structure in the body, including the craniofacial and the peripheral nervous system, the melanocytes, and so on. These cells form at the tip of the primitive structures called the neural tube before it will form the central nervous system and the spinal cord. These cells, instead of staying in place, undergo EMT and navigate through the body. So this, among others, 2 major examples of epithelial-mesenchymal transition aside from gastrulation. Obviously, we have written reviews on all the cases. Did a very bona fide mechanism occurs, and people can read that. But EMT is not just gastrulation. Obviously, a number of subsequent events through histogenesis and organogenesis.
So the second question, is it really known how TGF-beta can activate AKT itself?
Yeah, so TGF-beta, has a very interesting properties. TGF-beta, in normal cells, is growth suppressive and becoming a promoter in cancer cells. And a lot of people, including John Massagate, still investigating how, the cells can shift their ability to respond to TGF. Now, among other things, TGF-beta have what we call canonical, signaling systems, including proteins that I briefly mentioned, as well as non-canonical pathways. This is one way it can be activated. It has a number of papers describing the indirect activity of TGF-beta signaling to activate AKT. One of them is to suppress PTEN, for instance, which is an antagonist of AKT. So it's there are multiple mechanisms which activate AKT, and TGF-beta is one of them. And indeed, in cancer cells, it would certainly promote, refractoriness, apoptosis, and so on. Whereas in normal cells, it could induce even growth arrest and so on. So this is this dichotomic activity of TGF-beta in the context of a normal or a cancer phenotype.
So third question, data emerging about stable hybrid epithelial-mesenchymal phenotype as the most metastatic phenotype of cancer cells. And some recent findings point on the role of GRH2 as one of the major phenotypical stability factors that stabilize the hybrid EM phenotype of cancer cells, which is contrary to the previously suggested role of GRHL2 as epithelial gatekeeper. Can you comment on this?
So these hybrid, states, are, I would say, you would have to define them exactly what they are, because Grenier-Dlac2 is one of its main activities is to try to maintain the expression of ecallin, okay? And so if you knock out Grenier-Dlac2 in embryos, you have defect in the ectoderm that looks like you lose the epithelial phenotype. So I'm not too sure that Grenier-Dlac2 could be, I would say stabilizer, but we could certainly look into that, the stabilizer of an hybrid state. Indeed, It depends on what target Granny-like-2, aside from icatibant, what target Granny-like-2 is going to promote or suppress. This would need some investigations, and I think it's an interesting hypothesis to look at. There's unfortunately in this field of so-called epithelial, caretaker or gatekeeper, there's very few candidates, I have to say. OVL2 is one of them. We describe that in our reviews, and Granny-like-2 is a relatively obvious candidate because of its initial description as a promoting, the maintenance of icatibant. But clearly, we certainly take the option that it has other activities.
What about the implication of post-translational modifications, in particular glycosylation, in control of EMT in cancer?
So this has not been really explored, and I think again it's a field of investigation. The post-translational modification, particularly the glycosylation, if you obviously express obviously at the cell surface polycyclic acid, like for example the molecule discovered very long time ago, NCAM. In embryos, NCAM is polysilated. It's very rare to see that. So this would prevent, strong adhesion to occur. This is like a repulsing, highly charged, highly negative charged molecules that would repulse. So that would favor EMT if you had, surface charges that would sort of prevent cell-cell adhesion to occur. So this again should be looked at quite carefully. People did not quite engage into, this post-translational modification concerning, aberrant glycosylations. Again, this is an interesting field to investigate because the modulators in terms of adhesion are all been, implicating either, repressors, I mentioned, transcription of repressors and so on. But indeed, this is one aspect that could promote cell dissociation and subsequently disseminate.
We have time for one last question. Does hypoxia in solid tumors fuel EMT?
Oh, yes. So there's lots of papers showing that hypoxia is indirectly enhancing EMT, and we have been working on that. We have made ourselves, like many others, have made cell lines under hypoxic stress, and they indeed engage into EMT. Now, the exact mechanism is not fully understood, but clearly in tumors you have lots of hypoxic areas, and indeed those are often EMT'd, and clearly this is one of the most important aspects to promote EMT in carcinomas.